Hi, everyone. Beginning of another week. I thought I'd send out a dispatch and say hi. Um, I, I'm coming along on this still life, and I'd like to take a picture of it. Is it possible that my cell phone, the camera's actually just getting worse? It just doesn't seem to be able to capture the mid tones, the middle values at all. Everything gets. If anyone out there knows anything about how to work the mid values, the mid tones on a Samsung Galaxy, I don't know, S23 or something, please let me know. I don't know what to do. It drives me a little nuts. I even tried the pro mode, the raw, expert raw. Anyway, sorry for the distraction. See what I can do. In any case, hi. Here we are. It's good to paint. It's good being in the studio. A few weeks ago, hard to know exactly how long ago. I guess I should sit back. Maybe I should sit back. Am I sitting too close? I can't tell. A few weeks ago, Jerry Saltz, the art critic, he asked, he's always cheering on artists, telling us not to be babies. It's funny. Anyway, he asked a nice question. I guess it must have been near the end of 2024 or the beginning of 2025. He said, movie recommendations. What was the best movie? A lot of people mentioned Perfect Days by Wim Wenders, a German movie director, whose movie Wings of Desire is really one of my favorite movies of all time. Maybe this is better. Anyway, so I thought, oh, maybe I'll watch that. It was on Amazon Prime or something. And really beautiful movie. One of the most delicate, tender movies I think I've ever seen. Perfect Days. And I thought, God, he has such a great sensibility. I thought, I knew he photographs and he does Polaroids. And I remember reading some review some years not that long ago. And I thought, oh, maybe there's a book. So I tried to get a book of his Polaroids. Well, they're all out of print and ridiculously expensive. But this book was available. Writings, essays by Wim Wenders called The Pixels of Paul Cezanne and Reflections on Other Artists. How bad can that be? So I got myself a copy and I thought I'd share with you that last essay called The Pixels of Paul Cezanne. Throughout the history of painting, the same question has come up over and over again. What can be painted? Or in more recent times, it's usually the other way around. Are there things that can't be painted? Scarcely anyone posed this question more radically in the beginning of the 20th century than Paul Cezanne. That's becoming clear to me all over again as I stare enthralled at this small masterpiece while I ponder my thoughts and attempt to make this picture have a deeper and deeper impression on me. At some point, I have to admit in astonishment, I can't work it out. How Cezanne painted this little picture. Le Montagne Sainte-Victoire. Mountain Sainte-Victoire. The mountain of Sainte-Victoire. And this isn't even the first time, right? He painted it many, many times. It's got a little black and white image. It's not much. Indeed, it seems deeply puzzling to me that it could have come into existence at some point shortly after the turn of the century. Sure, using pencil and watercolor, of course, but that doesn't explain how the man saw. And that's precisely what I find so unfathomable. Unfathomable. This picture is so emotional and yet so analytical at the same time. If I try to imagine myself in his place, the way he stood or sat, looking up at the mountain and then back down to the piece of watercolor paper, then this picture apparently expresses a paradox for me. The painter sees and shows us something that deeply affects, concerns him, and he dissects it at the same time. How does that work? When I say it affects him deeply, it's because I'm acutely aware that this little picture emanates a great tenderness. Nothing could have been brought to paper more delicately, tenderly, or carefully, and in such a joyful way while doing so. The way the light earth tones below meet the sky blue above, with such lightness and airiness, the graceful conception of the mountain ridge, the power and dignity with which it rises beyond those first few hills, and how precisely it fits inside the frame. Only a man in love could do that. Someone who loves this mountain from the bottom of his heart, who enjoys standing before it more than anything else in the world, and has the greatest respect for the essence of what he has in front of him. And when I say he simultaneously dissects it, I don't mean that the Montagne Sainte-Victoire, as a manifestation, so to speak, has been put under the knife. Rather, that the painter has painted the perception of the mountain. That is, he has examined and opened up his process. Actually, no, that's not quite right either. It's the conditions of seeing the Montagne Sainte-Victoire that are being explored in the picture. And after further consideration, I take that back as well. The man is opening up something far more complex here. The reflection of the conditions of seeing the mountain. He loves the mountain, lying before him in gleaming sunlight so much, and is trying so hard to paint this light as well. Not only where it hits the mountain forms, but also what's standing between him and the mountain. And is putting so much into exploring his eyes as his tools, and also paints how his eyes transfer the mountain to his heart, and how it's understood by his soul. He wants so much to understand how all that comes together, what it is that makes him up to the task, whether he even has the right to see, paint, show in this way, and how the mountain is ultimately annulled on the paper and in the eye of the beholder. And that's how he reassembles everything that he had put asunder. How the mountain is ultimately annulled on the paper and in the eye of the beholder. And that's how he reassembles everything that he had put asunder. Paul Cezanne captured no less than all of this with a few pencil strokes and thinly glazed watercolors. How this could happen is just incredible to me, as it was before. Cezanne, perhaps, possibly, probably didn't think about it, but just painted it. But then everything I described would have played out anyway in one way or another, in his eyes, in his heart, his comprehension. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. But is it really there? Or have I just projected onto it 100 years later? How was it possible then? And how it is possible now to unpick one's subject and make it appear again in such a heart-rending way. Maybe I'm just thrown by the time period. Everyone can do that 100 years after Cezanne, pick apart what you see until it's down to its atoms, so to speak, or pixels, if you like, and then put it back together again. Digital photography is able to do that, or rather allows us to be able to do that intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or unconsciously. We've got so used to this action that it's become a matter of course. The unfathomable thing about the small Montagne Sainte-Victoire is most probably just that something that everyone can now do with digital technology was being done back then for the first time with just a pencil and a few watercolors. And that he was so moved by what he had done in a way that for us in the present day is no longer possible. And that he was so moved by what he had done in a way that for us in the present day is no longer possible. When viewed in this way, the consideration of this little watercolor from 1900 is a close inspection of a tremendous loss, or a cultural acclimatization of historic proportions. And so we beat on, boats against the current. There you go. Hope you're all well. Hanging in there, keeping faith, making stuff. Staying sane. Okay. Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.